We're going to talk about something today which is going to change how you look at conception, and it's going to be able to be utilized so that you, no matter what your position, whether you're going through IVF or you're simply having a tough time to conceive, I've been there, I hear you, you can utilize this information to your benefit in order to make things into a better situation, to increase the likelihood of a successful conception. Now, we're going to look at biology today. There's actually 3 things that we need to take into consideration when going through these tough to conceive journeys in IVF, which is, of course, the biology, which we're going to go to today. It's going to be very enlightening for you, 100%. 2 is going to be the kind of intellectual experience, the understanding, the gaining of knowledge, how you organize things of your journey. And 3 is the human spirit element, which is whereby how do you guys interact? How do you continue to grow your relationship? How do you keep attraction going through a stressful time? How do you increase your romantic kind of element of your relationship, the light? That is super important. And I've touched on that a few times before, but honestly, I think it's worth me going over it in a bit more of a pragmatic sense as well. So those 2 latter parts are going to come through in a later episode, but now we're going to talk about the biology. So let's get into it. So everyone knows there is a sperm and an egg. The man and the woman, they come together, they have sex, and a baby is conceived. And then 9 months later, the baby is born, right? Well, true. Yeah, that is what happens. But if you don't understand kind of like the building blocks of that process, then you're at a disadvantage, which is why I'm doing the episode today. So let's look at the sperm and let's look at the egg. And once we understand how those are created, we'll just then look at how you can utilize that information and start making improvements to both of your guys' fertility and then boost your chances of conception. So let's look at the sperm. The sperm is made in your testes, then stored for a short time in your epididymis, the back of your, very close to your testicles, and then it's ejaculated out, or it's not ejaculated out, and the sperm just die and it's absorbed by the body. Now, the sperm making process, it takes about 90 days, right? So it takes about 72 to 90 days. Let's just use that kind of approximate timeline in order for them to be built. And as they're being built, the quality of the manufacturing equipment will determine how good the product is. And the manufacturing equipment in this sense is about how well the testes are working, how well the whole body is working as a whole. And that is dictated often by lifestyle. So when you eat, sleep, how you drink alcohol, smoke, exercise, the whole shebang, right? And we'll go over a few ways you can improve things a bit later on, but let's stay with me. So that's the sperm's journey. And it's super important to understand that you can change the level of your fertility within a 90-day period, 3 months period, and often it snowballs so you can get even better results in 6 months' time. Now let's look at the woman. Why are we talking about the woman today? Because the egg is super important. And if you understand how the egg is made, then it just propels you ahead of everybody else. So let's look at the basics, right? We're often told that women are born with a certain number of eggs, and they will be expelled through ovulation every month after a certain age. And that's true. That's kind of the basic part. The part that's not often shared is that we don't know that the eggs take about a year to grow, right? It takes them about a year to start kind of like the birth growth stage of that cell to it becoming an egg and being expelled during ovulation. And why is that important? Because the environment that the woman gives, just like the sperm, the egg will dictate how healthy, how fertile the egg is. Now, it takes about a year for that follicle to grow. Follicle is basically, we'll just say it's the precursor to the egg. And it takes a year for it to grow. When it comes to 4 months before it's then used within the woman's ovulation, that's when not just the one follicle will be selected to possibly be used during that ovulation, but a number of them will be chosen. And it's during this time that they'll experience a lot more growth and they'll be in competition with each other, right? So there might be 20 follicles all vying for the position of one egg, right? That privilege to be used during the ovulation time. And that often kind of begins to tackle the question, well, if they're born with like 500,000 eggs, how do they, expel them through that lifestyle? Because it's just once a month. Just a crude example, but know that this is kind of a contributionary explanation of that. So we've got the follicles all growing, vying for the privilege of becoming that egg, and the one that grows the best, grows the most, takes advantage of all the hormones around them, that one will be selected, and then that one will be used, expelled from the ovary, and it will be the one that greets all those happy guys coming her way, right? So, no pun intended. So we have the sperm. Let's just quickly go back to the sperm. Sorry, the sperm. I want to cover what they do, because again, it's important to understand why the health of the sperm is super important. Because the sperm is expelled through ejaculation into the womb, and it has to navigate a whole range of things. It has to navigate mucus. It has to navigate a new pH level. It has to navigate the woman's immune system, and it's a lot. They got to go through a lot, and typically you'll it's an unsung battle, which is that huge amounts of sperm will just meet and greet the immune system. They'll be taken out, and that means that the rest of them can swim onward. And there's a whole range of things they've got to go through, which is why the count and the motility is super important. So after that first trial, those first series of trials, the majority of your sperm will die. If you've got 50 million sperm, there'll probably be a few 100,000 sperm left by the end of it, right? Huge losses. Then they'll all go in competition up the fallopian tubes, and then they'll go to try and fertilize the egg. And typically there'll just be hundreds, thousands left in order to do that job. So you get an idea of why the numbers are important. That's why I'm emphasizing all this. It's very kind of mathematical, but I want you to understand the value of the sperm count stat on your sperm test, on your semen test. So that's the journey of the sperm. They then meet that egg that's been selected for the privilege of potentially becoming a child. And then the sperm has to penetrate the egg. And that's not easy work, but one of them will eventually do it. After that, then that sperm is welcomed with open arms by the egg, and it will then begin to, it will begin the fertilization process and then grow into that embryo. Why is all this important? Why is this kind of basic knowledge that takes about 10 minutes to communicate really important for you guys? Well, it emphasizes how the equipment we used for conceiving is created, and it shows how we can actually identify these time periods that are kind of so important for the creation of these cells to ensure that they have the best environments so that they can be produced to the highest quality that you and I can produce. Now, I'll go into again how you boost quality and how you use the timeline shortly, but the story's not done, because you've got the basic biology, but you haven't got the, where's the magic? Where's the teamwork? That's just basic biology markers. Yeah, absolutely. And here's where the gets a bit mind-blowing, right? Now, there is DNA within the sperm. That's the package they're transporting, right? Morphology is how good it looks. Sperm count is how many of them there are. Motility is how good it runs. But what they're basically just transporting this DNA. And the quality of that package will dictate a whole range of things that I'm going to go into. So the only way you can really know how good that DNA is if you do a DNA fragmentation test, right? And then you know how fit it is for purpose. Otherwise, your morphology, your motility, and count are used as kind of indicators to them being just generally healthy sperm with acceptable DNA fragmentation rates. So that DNA during fertilization is brought together with the woman's DNA. And there is a high likelihood that sperm's DNA, it's not going to become it's not going to arrive 100% intact. It's not. That's just unheard of. It accumulates damage from once, if it's once it's made in the testes and the environment wasn't good, damage could have been incurred along the manufacturing line, so to speak, where it swims around in the epididymis and it's accumulating damage from external factors as well. It can then become damaged. During its journey that I've just outlined to the egg, it will also accumulate damage. So once it arrives, how good is that DNA? That's the question. And the egg will actually do the most incredible thing. It will actually heal the fragmented DNA that's within that sperm. And, it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. The reason why it's important to understand that it will actually directly repair the DNA that's become a bit tarnished along the way is because its ability to repair and make up for the sperm's poor DNA fragmentation is dictated by how fertile the woman is, because it uses a whole load of energy, a whole load of ATP and resources in order to both repair that sperm and then also to create that explosive growth whereby the cells just double and double and double, right? Comes an embryo and then has the best shot of life possibly can. Because if the energy isn't high enough, if the resources aren't enough from the woman, then loads of miscarriage will take place. Loads of micro miscarriages. They don't make it. They don't successfully conceive because they don't have the resources. And ATP is something that you can address throughout, your diet, supplements, a whole load of things as well. And the sperm definitely needs it. Think about how far it swims, right? So we'll talk about that, at the back end in a moment. But the healing mechanic from the egg is super important. And if the woman's fertility is low, it won't be able to make up for an average sperm's DNA fragmentation or a poor sperm's DNA fragmentation, right? And that's why it would be important if you had average sperm and there's a poor egg there, like my wife, who has low fertility. Mine, I've had a few wobbles and I've had to get the research done and the know-how how to improve them. But essentially what I'm saying is that if you increase your sperm to as much as possible, then the egg doesn't have the burden of improving those poorer elements, and it can just use its ATP, can just use its resources for that explosive result. Equally, if your sperm is poor for whatever reason, right, but the egg's ability to heal the DNA strands is at all-time high because the fertility rate, the fertility level is just off the charts, let's say, it can actually heal the DNA fragmentation rate from that. Now, bear in mind, guys, there are limits to this superpower. If something is, it's arrived dying, it's not going to be able to heal it. Yeah. So if it's heavy DNA fragmentation rates, and there's a serious reasons for that, it won't be able to heal and repair it. It's only the more moderate elements to it that it can. It's hard to quantify the level, but it's used as the term moderate is used for moderate damage to the sperm. So bear that in mind. So that an example of how we kind of know that the case is not just through all the cutting edge research that everyone it's crazy because everyone knows this, but I feel sorry in the medical fertility field, but it's never explained, and so the common person doesn't know. So it's nuts that people don't know that it's a team effort, biologically, in order to create an embryo. It's just not really explained, which is why I'm doing this today. So so we know this not just from the studies and the level of understanding that we have today, but also because if you go back to really any period of time in the past, like over 300 years ago, they will be marrying up the man with the woman, who would be significantly younger, let's just say 18, right? And then you'd have an older man for those times, could be 45, 50, and that woman's fertility would make up for the man's poor fertility. And that's why it's possible for them to sire heirs, or whatever terminology you want to use, in order to carry on their family lineage, which was obviously very important. And honestly, if you are one of those men looking to improve your fertility but don't know where to begin, then I did put together a free supplement blueprint that might help. It's based on the research I went through during our own fertility journey, the things I personally implemented myself, and the lessons I learned trying to improve my own sperm health over time. And the goal is really just to give men some practical direction. I found there was none. What actually matters, what's probably a waste of money and time, and how to stop jumping between random bits of advice online. So if that sounds useful to you can head over to the www.thefertilityproject.life/blueprints. But for now, let's get back to the story. Now, if you flip it around to the other side, having healthy sperm can help older women who typically have lower fertility rates. But there are somewhat more limits to it because of premenopause, menopause, and just the total amount. I mean, that's triggered by, I won't get into it, but there are limits to it, more limits to it for a woman because of menopause and her body transforming her state into one that isn't fertile, basically. Now, there's a whole range of things that you as a man or your wife as a woman can do in order to increase their fertility. And I'll talk about a few of those things now. So this goes for both of you, right? The only one that might differ a bit is exercise, how you execute that. So I'll do that last. But if we're talking about the basics, sleep's super important. You want to get 8 hours of sleep per a night, preferably between 10 and 6, the golden hours. Now, if you're not quite hitting that, don't worry. Don't freak out. If you're getting 7 hours, you go to sleep at 11 and you wake up at 6, or something like that, or your schedule's a bit different, don't worry, that's fine. You're going to be doing great. And the reason why sleep is important is because, I mean, to be honest, it's kind of hard to throw out all the reasons why, but it's linked to your testosterone, it's linked to your energy levels, how well your body recovers, etc., etc. So that's really important. That's got to be your number one priority, honestly, to have good sleep. Second is, let's go for nutrition next. So nutrition is really important. What you have put into your body is what it's going to be working with. The quality of various systems, which includes your blood flow, includes how much ATP your cells have. So what you're really looking at there is increasing your mitochondrial quality and counts. That's really important. And then I would say that your oxidative stress is the next one, but that's tackled through all of this stuff as well. So nutrition, you want to be getting 10 fruits or veg a day. The easiest way to do that is to have a smoothie and a veggie juice a day. That's basically the easiest way to do it. You do that for 3 months, your fertility is going to look different. Now, it's not the be all and end all. You've also got to cut out all the crap that you put into your system, whether it be sugar, processed foods, carbs, unhealthy carbs. You've got to cut down on a whole range of things. And in Western society these days, it's so hard to sort of keep away from it. It's just everywhere. And so you do have to check, what you're eating and cook fresh at home. That'll help a lot. And then in addition to that, making sure you get high quality sources of protein. That can be meat, it can be fish, it can be eggs, it can be whatever, tofu, nuts, seeds, a whole range of things. But it's very important to ensure that they are quality meats, because poor quality meat will often be processed in a way that's not good for your body. That's unfortunately the case. If it's good quality meat, it's going to be a whole lot better for you. And I will just come back to veggies quickly. And I want to talk about the fact that all your veg usually will have fungicides, pesticides, herbicides, right? All these things are designed to kill and kill life, and to have all the inconveniences of life die away, right? So you've got to bear that in mind, which means you've got to wash your fruit and veg. And when you wash it, you can run it under a cold tap and wash it. I used to do that, and that's fine, but that won't get rid of the majority, definitely not the most not the wax on the apple and everything. What you actually need to do is get some specific soap for it, put it onto a sponge under warm water and just scrub it around for a bit, and then it gets off. That's how toxic it is and how hard it is to remove. I would say that you can also buy organic. That's going to help a lot, but you're still going to need to wash your fruit and veg. I will mention supplements. Supplements can be used to supplement your nutritional intake. We do have a free supplement blueprint video that you can look at. So it goes into everything, what's good for you, what's bad for you, how to dodge the bad ones and how to go for the good ones and do it at a way that isn't going to be too, it's going to ensure that you don't pay for just waste money, basically. It's going to ensure that you're not going to waste money. So anyway, that's on the www.thefertilityproject.life /blueprint. So if you want, you can take a look at that. Now, the last thing I'm going to talk about is exercise. Exercise is really important for you, the man. Why? Well, for everybody, but for you, the man, I'll go over first, which is that it will increase your testosterone. As a basic understanding, it will just increase your testosterone. You don't want to overwork. You don't want to overstress your body because then oxidative stress will increase and it will affect your fertility. You want to be doing exercise that increases testosterone. So doing workouts where if you're lifting weights, it'll be between 6 and 12 reps. And if you're doing more cardiovascular exercise like burpees or something like that, that can also be used to increase your testosterone. I did a burpee workout for about 3 to 4 months and it increased my testosterone to by about 30%. So that really worked. But as I said, guys, really important not to overstress the body. Make sure you're not pushing yourself to your limit too far. You don't want to be dizzy, woozy, feeling nauseous, anything like that, right? Don't use that as a kind of natural guardrail. I've been there. I'm always tempted to push myself, and I have, and then it hasn't always gone my way. Something, a little bonus I'll just throw in there is chemicals will affect you a lot. So when you're using artificial soaps, cleaning products, paints, the whole shebang, that if you're on a construction site, that will affect your fertility as well. So you need to be taking the precautions so that you're not taking all those fumes that will have a detrimental effect. And just a side note on the sleep, if you do night shifts and your body is completely out of whack with how your circadian rhythm should be, that will also be a massive detriment. A lot of people who shift from night shifts to just normal life, a day shift, they'll see their fertility just do a complete 180. So bear that in mind if that is you. So that's everything for this episode on the fertility workshop, this podcast today. I do want to thank you for your time. I don't take it for granted. Be aware that we do have a course for you. That's on www.thefertilityproject.life /MFM course. That's the Male Fertility Mastery course. And I'm super proud of that course. And it's there not only is to give you the information, go into things in a bit more depth, although it is simplified, guys, don't worry, not going to be overloaded. But that's designed to give you all your options and all the actionable know-how so that you can get things done. And it's also done in a way where you have a healthy framework and structure and guidance, so you can just get the job done in a short space of time. So check that out if that's of interest to you. But once again, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. I want the best for all of you, my brothers and sisters, if you're listening. And I look forward to seeing you next time. In the meantime, be well. If you're currently trying to improve your fertility and you're tired of looking at random information on Google, looking at different podcasts, going through Reddit, different forums, or just looking at general information online, I've been there before and I know exactly how it feels. And that's why we've created the Male Fertility Mastery course. It's a step-by-step course built to help men understand what actually impacts their sperm health and how to improve key fertility markers that matter. You know the ones: morphology, motility, sperm count, and DNA fragmentation, you name it. And how to approach this whole journey with more clarity and direction, something that I initially lacked a lot. And a huge part of our own fertility journey was just realizing that how much confusion there is for men in this space and how little practical guidance there actually is. So if you want to get a structured system and you want to get some clear guidance instead of trying to figure it all out alone, like I did, which sucked, then you can learn more at thefertilityproject.life/MFM course. And thank you again for listening to this episode.